Have you ever done the math to determine how much of your year you spend on your phone? It's not really a fun exercise. It's a little bit of a stressful exercise, but for a person who spends 2 hours a day on their phone, that is going to be an entire month out of their year. And if you're someone who spends 4 hours a day on your phone, that's going to be 2 months at the end of the year. So it adds up really quickly. I'd recommend right now, actually, if you haven't already done this, pause this video, go in, figure out how much screen time you do on average per year, and then come back to this, because it's really shocking, I think, for most of us to realize how much time we actually do spend on our phones. My name is Michaela McGregor, and I'm currently a first-year law student at Boston University, and I want to talk today about brain rot, or in other words, the amount of time that we spend excessively scrolling through social media or just games on our phones mindlessly without paying attention to the time, kind of destroying our attention span in the process. Online, depending on the source, I checked a bunch of different sources. On average, people do spend between 4 and 5 hours a day on their phones. That is going to be a minimum of 2 months a year that people are spending on their phones, on average, even more than 2 months a year. We're in an epidemic of instant gratification and these dopamine hits that people require on a conditioned level. We are accustomed to seeing these YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, TikToks. Every single video is short form, and we feel like we're getting a lot of value out of it because we get to save our time by watching these short form videos. But what are we actually saving when we spend so much time on our phones because of this perfectly curated algorithm that knows our interests and knows what's going to hook us so that we don't close the app and get off of our phone. Sorry, my laptop charger just fell off the desk. That startled me. Brain rot was actually the Oxford Word of the Year for 2024, but the official definition from Oxford is supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, especially viewed as a result of overconsumption of material, now particularly online content, considered to be trivial or unchallenging. Also, something characterized as likely to lead to such deterioration. The word brain rot actually comes from Henry David Thoreau in his book Walden. How do you know if you have brain rot? Here's some questions to ask yourself. If you find that a lot of them resonate with you, then there's a high chance that you experience brain rot. Surfing the internet without any purpose in mind. Picking up your phone without intending to. Being pressed to get something done because you spent too much time browsing on your phone. Going through your phone anytime that you're not actually doing something else. So if you're eating a meal, using the bathroom, showering, waiting for, at the stoplight. Not doing hobbies that you used to have more time for. So if you're the type of person who says, yeah, I used to read when I was younger, but I don't these days, one question we can ask ourselves is, why don't we have the time to do that hobby that we used to do? Feelings of anxiety when you're not able to check your phone. Using your phone impulsively when you really shouldn't, either for social etiquette or it's actually dangerous. For example, if you're crossing the street and you find yourself still looking at your phone, you don't put it down as you cross the street. If you have a shorter attention span and you've been finding it hard to focus. And then also picking up your phone as soon as you get a notification. This isn't a declaration that phones are evil, social media is evil. It's definitely not, and I spend a lot of time doing it. And if you want a respite and you need to recharge at the end of the day, to sit and scroll through something. But overall, why do we need to change? Number one, just mental health. I truly think that spending less time on screens would make us happier as a society. Our physical health, connecting with nature and people. It's a common sight to see when you're walking down the street that people are walking with their heads down, looking into their phones. And honestly, this last one, it just feels fundamentally dystopian. What can we do? What steps can you take to defeat brain rot, get your attention span back to what it used to be, and to not feel so dependent on your phone? Well, there are lots of things, and I haven't actually counted them yet. I'll have to count them at the end of this, and then that way I can tell you how many there are. I think the first step is to limit your phone usage. So there are multiple ways that you can do this. First of all, when you pick up your phone and start scrolling for a while, write down why you've picked it up. Because I know for me, it really is a habitual motion. You'll be doing work, maybe studying for something, and then just all of a sudden your hand reaches out, you pick up your phone, and you're just on. There's no reason. So write down when you do that. Is it when you are procrastinating? Is it when you're feeling stressed? Is it when you're feeling confused about something? You're tired? When are you most likely to pick up your phone mindlessly? And knowing what triggers that tendency to pick up your phone will help you to not do it so much. Set time limits on your apps. Go into your settings and have it tell you when you've spent a certain amount of time on a certain app. Limit yourself to the number of times per day that you want to pick up your phone. Maybe try to pick up your phone only 4 times a day. Of course, a lot of people, you've got to be connected to email, or maybe you have urgent texts, maybe you do Slack through your work. Of course, there are extenuating circumstances, but otherwise, when you don't have a reason to pick up your phone, limit it. Change the color on your phone to grayscale. If it's black and white, it's been shown you're less likely to feel addicted to it when you're not able to see the color. Put it on Do Not Disturb. Of course, also just put your phone in a hard to reach location. Set quiet hours for yourself that you don't ever pick up your phone, before 8 a.m. or after 10 p.m. p.m., something like that. Delete social media. I hesitate to say this one because going cold turkey, I don't know if that's a good way to advocate. Like I said, connectivity, it is a good way to connect with people. Social media is the fabric of our social system these days. And to just cut yourself entirely from the network, it's really admirable, and I wish I could do it, but at the same time, I know that I would feel like I'm missing out on a lot. And I know that I can't do that. So I don't want to advise something on here that I know I can't do. But if you are up to it and you want to delete social media, that's also an option. Avoid instant gratification. So try to avoid the short form videos and go for longer content, and then it'll also make it more intentional, because if you pick up your phone and you're forcing yourself to only look at longer videos, you're less likely to pick it up. Also, try to avoid doom scrolling, which is when you get in the habit of just scrolling through especially negative content. Try to seek out positive content, and I think especially in our political state these days, it can get very stressful. So, I think that one way to just kind of at least prevent the negative effects of brain rot and sitting on our phones for a long time is try to just expose yourself to the good and the bad. Definitely not saying don't inform yourself. Definitely stay informed. Keep yourself informed. But balance everything, everything in moderation. Another thing is garbage in, garbage out, which my family has always said many times. If you consume negative content or harmful content, that's going to be reflected in your own life. Kind of treat technology like food, be mindful of what you take in, because it does have an effect on you. Really crucial here is fixing your attention span, and I know this is something that, just from what I've talked about with my friends, like anecdotal evidence here, but I feel like a lot of people these days struggle to have the attention span that they feel they used to have when they were children or even teenagers or something. And I think a lot of this is because of that instant gratification that we're accustomed to having these short form videos. First of all, try to find ways to entertain yourself. Pretend you live in a world where technology doesn't exist. Don't let technology permeate every area of your life. When you're eating a meal and you're alone, instead of propping up your phone to watch Netflix at the same time, read a book at the same time. Or when you're on public transport, instead of scrolling through Instagram, bring a book with you. And it is depressing, honestly. I try to bring a book now anytime that I'm on the subway, and of course I'm guilty of going on my phone when I'm on the train, but everyone is on their phones, and it's just, it really does make me wonder what effect it's having on our mental health. I think one of the biggest things, and this one's kind of obvious, is reading, but if you look up stats over time, reading rates are dropping, like how many books per year Americans on average read for leisure. It's going down. There's some interesting graphs published by Gallup. You can see how Americans are reading fewer books on average. It's going down. Looking by gender, age, or college graduate, no matter what the demographic is, the change here on the right, it's all negatives. It's going down per year. And then looking at the number of books read by US adults in the past year, this dark line at the top, reading only 1 to 5 books per year, that's going up, and the dotted line of 11 books or more, that's going down. So it's not that we're getting less hours in the day. I think we're just choosing to spend those hours in each day differently than we used to. If you're not the type of person that's into literature, that's totally okay, because there's also so many other ways that you can engage yourself without having to be on a phone. There are all sorts of puzzle books that you can get that are super cheap, like Sudoku or crossword puzzles, word searches. If you want to be more inspired, you could set up a book club. You could set up a reading goal for the year, organize a book list of all the books you want to read. I truly believe that technology is an addiction. And I think that detoxing ourselves from it is a difficult process, that you do have to find ways to implement your regular routine without that technology in order to kind of rip the band-aid off, right? To get that detachment from technology that we're so accustomed to. So some ways to do that are replacing, when you would usually use technology, and try to find ways to do it without technology. So if you're learning a language, rather than doing language game apps on your phone, get a textbook. You can get a used one at a bookstore, or you could get one from the library. If you keep a diary, instead of typing it online, write it out in a journal. If you're the type of person who likes to cook, instead of going online and using all your recipes from things that are online, use a cookbook or, written down recipes that have been passed down in your family. Again, I'm not arguing for a boycott of technology in our lives. I'm just saying that in order to get your attention span back to normal, I think that you have to remove yourself from it. Of course, it's not the only way, because we can still use technology in a mindful way that's not brain rot. For example, doing an online course, a lot of them are free as long as you don't get certification. I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, curating your algorithms so that it's content that's more educational, meaningful. It's not just these short clips that ultimately mean nothing in our lives. Challenge yourself to become an expert on a really niche topic. I've always wanted to do this, because you know how there are those people in your life that have just this really random in-depth knowledge of something, like a Civil War buff. Review a lot of content videos online. That's a good way to use technology wisely to become an expert on a topic of your choosing that you're passionate about, and check out books in the library, take notes, become an expert on something. Limit your use of AI. This is a huge one. I don't like AI, and I do use it every once in a while, I don't want to imply that I don't use it, because I do. It's a useful tool, especially for language learning, but do not become reliant on it. These days, I'm really trying to not use it at all, though, because I think it's a slippery slope. It's very detrimental for your attention span, because every time that you use AI, you're not only having information at your fingertips, like we do with Google, but you don't even have to do any effort searching online. Like with the Google search, you still have to dig. You still have to try to find the articles that you need. AI literally just spits out the answer. You don't have to write any emails. You don't have to write anything. You can do nothing with AI, and it's unfathomable to me. I think that it could spell out the end of critical thinking and writing skills if we become too dependent on it. And also, it does have an environmental impact. I'm linking some of the studies that I've used here in the caption below, but the energy consumption of AI is far greater than the energy consumption of a regular search. All in all, I don't approve of AI. But moving on from that, going outside, taking in fresh air. I went for a walk today to meet up with my cousin and my uncle, and I forgot my earbuds. And I started walking, and I was like, oh my, like, what am I, like, I can't listen to music, I can't listen to a podcast. And then I was like, why does it matter? Can I not go 15 minutes without being entertained by some technology in my ears? Like, why can I not be entertained by the world around me? There are so many things that I remember doing when I was a child that I would be so entertained and mesmerized by outside. Often just sitting and looking at something, sitting looking at anthills, sitting in the shallow end of a lake, watching the minnows swim around me, sitting in the snow, even laying down in the snow, like watching the flakes fall, watching them fall on my mitten, and like looking at the intricate shapes of each snowflake. All of these things that we don't do anymore because it feels like a waste of time or something, just sitting doing nothing. But there is such an inherent value to being able to entertain yourself, whether indoors or outdoors, being able to embrace boredom, embracing the world around us, observing the world around us. Because what good is the beauty in the world if you're not able to sit and enjoy it without having some form of technology there to satisfy our short attention spans? It's a very sobering thought. And ask yourself, are you able to sit for 10 minutes without having anything in front of you? And if the answer is no, then it's just something to think about. I mentioned becoming an expert on something. Of course, that takes a lot of devotion and time, but just even if you're bad at it, pick up a new language. If you're bad at it, pick up an instrument. Like, you don't have to be a master at it. Go through self-help books, MBTI books. I have always loved MBTI. I don't think that it's a science. Like, I'm not into like I can't date, type XXXX because they're this type and I'm this personality type. I don't believe in that, but I think it's just a good subjective, arbitrary way to measure yourself and to get to know yourself better. Learning the ways that you operate as a person, getting a better grasp on your interests, strengths, weaknesses. Read a book on dopamine, instant gratification technology. There are so many out there. Approaching it from the scientific level can be especially useful when detoxing digitally and trying to cure yourself of brain rot. Do a 24 hours unplugged challenge. I've always wanted to do this. If you're able to, go 24 hours without any technology at all. And also, when I say technology, I mean screens. Obviously, we can't just unplug our refrigerator and say, okay, no technology whatsoever. That wouldn't make sense. Anyway, volunteer. You could also volunteer. One of the most rewarding things I did, and I would love to return to this when I have more time, is working at an animal shelter. And I used to clean out the dog kennels, and it was often gross work, but it was rewarding work. Lastly on here, reach out to friends or connect with people, which seems obvious, but you don't want all of your relationships to be digital. And even if you live far from home, I've definitely lived in places where I didn't have friends or family around. Writing handwritten letters, that can be another good way to connect. That's all I have to say on this. I think we are severely underestimating how much of a drain this is on our mental health, our productivity. I don't think we take it seriously enough like we do our physical health, and it's something really to think about. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful, and that now, of course, maybe it'll inspire you to close YouTube after watching this. But before you do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. But thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your week.